Hey Hodies, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom and thank you so much for clicking on this video. We're gonna do like a first impressions. Sigma was very kind in sending me a lot of PR for me to test, and I've never really tried anything from Sigma. Diving into the brand with an open heart, really. So thank you to Sigma for sending this. You would think that in the time that I got into makeup, which was like 2016, 2017, you think that I would have at least purchased a brush from Sigma. I did have a Sigma switch and I do have one of Sigma's like mattes for cleaning brushes. I've been using those for quite some time. I think, well, the Sigma switch I think I bought last year. I've been using those kinds of Sigma products for a while. You think that I would have gotten a brush at some point, but I went straight to like Morphe for brushes, and I actually don't really know the price point of a lot of these things. This mug is all brushes that they sent to me. I have an eyeshadow, I have some lip products, and I have some cheek products. And so what I'm going to start with is their Hydro Melt Lip Mask. I don't know if this comes in different shades, and this is just like the natural one. I have used this a couple of times. I got this at the Creator and Friends event, and they also sent me another one, and I gave it to Tiff. I've been really enjoying it. It reminds me a lot of the Laneige, but it's been, to be fair, it's been a while since I've used the Laneige sleeping mask. This has like a very sweet smell to it. I can't identify, I'm so bad at identifying smells, but it definitely smells fragranced. Not like in too strong of a way where it's like bad. Because sometimes like you get a very fragranced thing and it doesn't, it's like bad. I also have some other new stuff that I probably will be throwing into this video. I'm gonna use the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. And then I'm gonna try a foundation for the first time today. My friend Andromeda, I talk about them a lot. We trade makeup quite a bit, so that's why I talk about them a lot. They just offer me a lot of things often, and vice versa, like whenever I'm done with something, or like if I think that they'll like it, I'll just send it their way. So they sent me the new Makeup Forever HD Skin Hydra Glow. My friend Beth did a deep dive review. Her channel's a Little Night Makeup. She does very, very thorough reviews, and she compares it to the HD foundation. There's the HD Skin, not the Hydra Glow. She does a comparison of those two. And in her review, she talked about how this might be replacing the Reboot foundation. In that brief time where I was reviewing Makeup Forever, the Reboot foundation was my favorite thing I tried from them. So I'm curious about this. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to be a disaster. So I feel okay testing it with these Sigma products because Makeup Forever has been pretty trustworthy. So I'm going to use this brush. It's the F47 from Sigma. It's the multitasker. It looks a lot like brushes that I already have. Here is the Sonia G Jumbo Base. You can see they kind of have a very similar shape. The Sonia G is much denser. This has a lot more give, but they have a similar shape. I like foundation brushes in this shape. A more exaggerated version of this would be the BK Beauty 101. BK is much denser than the Sigma. And then a smaller version would be the BK Beauty 109. And I think that's all the foundation brushes I have that are shaped like that. And again, this is the multitasker. They also sent me a kabuki brush, which is not my favorite for foundation application. I have two of these. They also gave one to us at the Creator and Friends event that I went to. So let me just try out this foundation. I'm probably not going to do like a deep dive review on this foundation. I just want to see what it's like. If this is the replacement for the Reboot foundation, I don't really care for this that much. It's incredibly wet looking. It's kind of giving me the same energy that the About Face foundation kind of gave me. It's like having a very similar finish on me. The Reboot foundation I really liked, but I felt like it didn't look like this on the skin. Like it definitely had like a, a more, dewy kind of finish, but I don't feel like it looked this wet. And the thing that was really beautiful about the Reboot foundation was that it was really easygoing. It was uncomplaining. I felt like this was like thick and like didn't really want to blend out as easily as what I remember of the Reboot. I don't have the Reboot foundation anymore. Soft Blend Concealer. Okay, there's this concealer brush. Look at that. It's a really big concealer brush, and it's not super dense. I wasn't going to put on concealer, but let's test it out. I'm going to use the Surratt Dewdrop Concealer in the shade 2. I'm actually surprised at the softness of the Sigma brushes. I find that they are very, very, very soft, which is really nice. I'm going to use their F25 tapered face brush. I had a brush like this from MAC a long time ago that I held on to for a very long time. I don't know why I got rid of it. I think it started like shedding a lot, and then I was just kind of like over it. This is their Chiseled Cheek. I'm going to use it on the under eyes, but I'll also use it on the cheek. Brushes are working pretty well. I'm a big fan of investing in your tools. Sigma brushes might be expensive enough for you to be considered an investment. Brushes are one of those things, if you take good care of them, then they will last you a really long time. That MAC brush I had for like almost, you know, it's 6 or 7 years. I've had brushes even longer than that last up. I had Morphe brushes that I've had for like the whole time I've been doing makeup that I just got rid of only because I was like, I think I'm past the point in my life where I need to have a Morphe brush. These all feel really high quality. I like the weight of them. They're actually like heavier than my Sephora brushes. They're not as luxe as my Sonia G, but like they're on par with like BK and Rephr, although I don't really like the Rephr handles. I've mentioned that before. We're on to the point where I want to apply some cheek products. And I would have a word, not with Sigma, but with Sisley. As you all know, recently I did a video where I called Battle of the Blur, where I put the Sisley Blur Expert up against another powder to see how good it was at blurring, as one does whenever you do a Battle of the Blur. I was unboxing all of the stuff I got from Sigma. I got one of their compacts for their cheek out, and I said, this compact looks familiar. It's the same compact. I have no qualms with Sigma using mass marketed components. Sigma's not like an expensive brand. Fine with them buying up in mass a component and slapping their name on it. I have no problem with Sigma doing that. What I do have a problem with is Sisley charging $110 for this and not even making a custom component for their product. This is the exact same component, top to bottom. And even the shape on the inside is exactly the same. The only thing that's different is that this powder seems to be baked and this powder is in a pan. They're exactly the same. You're probably like, okay, $110 for a product that's not even its own custom component. I'm gonna talk about Surratt, which is another brand that I really care for. Something that I criticize Surratt for a lot is the fact that their components just feel weird for the sake of being weird. However, Surratt is at a luxury price point, a little less expensive than Sisley, but still at an expensive price point that a lot of people, you know, not everyone's willing to pay the price point of Surratt. But what I can say for Surratt is that at least they are making custom components for their formulas, because there are no other brands that use like the Dewdrop one or use like the Surreal Skin Foundation applicator. Those are not components that everyone is using. For a luxury brand that charges an asinine amount. A lot of times you're also paying for a component when you're paying for a luxury product. You're paying for it to have the name on it. I could easily like scratch off Sigma's logo and put Sisley on it. Because it's the same thing. They're the same exact component. And I'm a little bit fucked off with Sisley about it. Literally so lame. Now that I powdered this foundation, it's a little bit better. They sent me 2 of their bronzers. These are their matte bronzers. They sent me the shade light and medium. Here they are next to each other. So what my intention is, I'm going to put the light on this side and I'm going to put the medium on this side for us to compare the two. I think either one of these would work for me just based on how they look in the pan, but we'll see once they're on the cheek. And I'll use this brush. It's the large angled contour for the bronzer. We'll put the light shade on this side of my face. It's a very subtle bronzer. I'm gonna zoom you in so you can see it because I feel like from afar you couldn't. I think it's fair enough that even though it does lean a little bit warm, it's not looking super orange. I do fear now when I put the medium one on this side, I have a feeling that it's gonna be maybe a lot more red, a lot more warm. Maybe it will look a little orange, but we'll see. I use my Sigma switch to kick off the excess powder in here to apply the medium to the side of my face. So that's definitely not the right bronzer shade for me. It's very orange on me, but I feel like the fair one looks really, really natural on me. Let me pull out some other powder bronzers and we'll take a look. I'm so bad at this. This is the Sigma bronzer in light. This is the Sigma bronzer in medium. This is the Gucci bronzer. You can see how this is more pinky than either of these. Like, I feel like the light shade leans a little more yellow and then the medium shade is a little more orange. And then below that, that is the light shade in the Victoria Beckham bronzing brick. And then down here, this is Soleil Dew, which is from Surratt. And you can also tell how pigmented these are compared to what I usually use. Like, these are all finger swatches, but like, look at how much more pigmented these two show up. If you were interested in these, I would say that if you use formulas like the ones that I typically use, a lighter hand will do. So I do think that the medium shade is a little bit too deep for me. I'm going to apply it to the other side of my face so we can have some like continuity. I just don't think it's the right bronzer shade for me. It's just a little bit too strong. But I actually really like this one on my skin tone. It does the thing that like the Gucci bronzer does, even though it's like not as pink as this. It does the same thing where it just kind of becomes one with the skin, maybe just a little more yellow as opposed to, you know, having the rosiness of this. If you are fair and neutral, but you lean on more yellow, this might be more like your solution with the, like how the Gucci bronzer is my solution for like something leaning a little pink. This could be your solution for something like leaning a little bit yellow. I'm gonna bronze the other side of my face with the medium, and then the inevitable fate of this is that I will find it a new home. Sigma was also kind enough in sending me 2 of their blushes. Their blush in Tiger Lily. It reminds me a little bit of NARS Orgasm. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting from that color. It has a lot of shimmer in it. And then they also sent me a cream blush in the shade Pashmina. I feel like I could layer these two, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start with, for the sake of getting it on my face, I'm gonna put the shade Pashmina on the right side of my face. I am gonna use not a Sigma brush. I don't know how those will pick up the cream blush. So I'm gonna use the BK Beauty 109. I feel like it's not really that dewy. It's really balmy. Like the second my finger gets in there, it gets really melty. It reminds me a little bit of the Finding Ferdinand formula. The ones from Summertime, not the most recent release, at least the ones that I got in Kaki's collection from the Summer Abroad collection. But yeah, this is really, really pretty. It actually reminds me a lot. I think it was the shade Paloma. It looks a lot like that. It has a really nice texture. I felt like it was really easy to work in. I felt like at first felt like I had a lot of product on the brush, and then as I was blending it, it actually blended out very easily. I also think that this formula would have been okay with one of their brushes. I didn't touch it first, but I was kind of expecting it to be something very like dense, something kind of like my Kier Weiss blush, which also might be dense from its age too, because it's a little bit older. But even, I don't think that these brushes would work really well on something like the Western Atelier blushes if I tried to swirl it in one of those. I just wasn't expecting it to be this soft, but it's a very soft cream blush formula. Let's move on to the powder formula. This is again the shade Tiger Lily, and I'm going to use their blush brush that they sent. Yeah, it definitely has that NARS Orgasm vibe where it's like a peachy pink with like shimmer. Really easy to use. I guess after using the bronzers, I was kind of expecting more pigmentation from these, but I found them both very, very easy to use. I don't feel like they look too different though on the skin. Although I'm using my viewfinder to make sure that what I'm seeing in real life, but like even it just looks a little bit stronger on this side. So I'm going to just top off this side with Tiger Lily. The only thing is I would say like as far as, I mean, they were kind enough to send me these. I didn't pick out any of the shades. These wouldn't be like shades that I would pick out, but I think the formulas are nice. I think I would be more excited about them maybe if they were in shades that I found a little more intriguing. Now, I don't know a lot about the line, so as I continue to wear and try these things out, I think I would like to look at other shades. Whenever you get PR sometimes, they'll just like sometimes just send you the shades. Like this was definitely like a creator starter pack that Sigma sent me, which is really cool that they do that and offer that. These aren't colors that I find very interesting. So I don't know how nuanced Sigma typically gets with their cheek products, but I'd be interested to see because I liked both of those formulas. I thought that they were really, really nice. Like literally no complaints about either one. And then they also sent me the highlighter, and this is the shade Sizzle. It looks just like a kind of like a really pretty champagne highlighter. So the brand describes this shade as a rosy gold metallic. Keep that in mind because I would not describe it as such. My little mullet's starting to grow out. We'll see. I'm undecided on how it looks right now, but we'll see. And then this is their highlighting brush. So this is the FO3, and it's weird because it's like flat. It reminds me a little bit of this brush. It's the Designer Pro from Sonia G. The Designer Pro is obviously a lot bigger. I use this for powdering my under eyes. And then I also have another brush from Sonia G. The thing is, blessing and a curse, having all these brushes that I'm testing. It's like, where's the brush that I'm actually looking for? For a powder highlighter, I typically use this brush, which is the Soft Cheek from Sonia G. This is a lot smaller. This isn't really negative. It's neither here nor there, just like my experience with them. The Sigma brushes, none of them seem to be really super densely packed except for this Kabuki brush, which for a highlighter, I don't really want something super densely packed because I like a more natural highlight. I'm not really a fan of this. I'm gonna zoom you in. I talk about this a lot when I talk about highlighters on my channel, is that like highlighters are very particular, and like highlighter is kind of like falling out of fashion right now. So those are all things to keep in mind. And even though like I'm my own singular person and I can choose to love highlight, but like I do feel like the conversations in the greater makeup world, especially as someone who's like in the makeup space, and I include like I think even people who watch a lot of makeup content, follow a lot of content creators on Instagram and TikTok, if something's falling out of fashion, you still kind of like feel that in your choices too. It's like I feel like I've been like I love highlighter, but I feel like I've been highlighting less or like using different types of highlighters than I like normally would, because it's like kind of falling out of fashion. Also, like, you know, I am getting older too. I don't think 33 is old by any means, but I do feel like, you know, as you age, you get a little bit more concerned about like how things are looking on your skin. So this formula has a lot of shimmer particles in it, and it's kind of metallic. Like that almost looks like an eyeshadow swatch to me. And I've been much more into creams too. So I think this would be like a very beautiful eyeshadow shade, not really like a highlighter shade. Because on my cheek, it just, all of that metallicness is like getting caught in the texture. And it is like it's a pretty shade. It's a little more yellow than I would like for a champagne kind of shade. It's like pretty, it's going with everything, but I wouldn't pick up this highlighter. Now, I definitely have highlighters that have shimmer particles in them that I really like. Like, I like the Surratt Torch Lumiere, which is a cream. And I also recently liked one from Makeup Forever, and it also had shimmer particles in it, but they were very evenly dispersed. This particular highlighter feels a little bit juvenile to me, which like doesn't have to be negative if this is your preferred type of highlighter, like that kind of blinding. I'll build it up a little bit more so we can kind of see what it does. But like, as you can see from like this swatch on the back of my hand is like, I'm sure I could get it like pretty blinding. Yeah. If you're into a highlighter, you might like this, but for me, this style of highlighter isn't really it. I'm gonna go back in a little bit with the foundation and just kind of tap it over that, and that will give us like something a little more less. a little more less. It's a highlighter, but it's like I don't find it particularly exciting. I don't really care for it. Actually, what the truth is, I really don't care for it. And then that brings us to the eyeshadow. So they sent me this 9-pan eyeshadow palette. It's the Spicy eyeshadow palette, and I think they have like a slew of these. So this one seems to be like, this feels like a warm brown. This is what I was gifted here, which is really pretty. I wasn't expecting the sparkly shades to be so sparkly. Like from Sigma, there's a lot of texture going on in there. This shade right up here, it's the shade Moonshine, gives me a lot of vibes of shades that I really, really am fond of. And the shade in the center, Maverick, it has some different colored sparkles in it, which could be like really, really exciting. I think that we'll be able to make something pretty cool. I'm curious as how these will perform. I'm very curious of how they'll perform. I simply do not know. I'm gonna prep my eyes with the NARS eyeshadow base. I'll set it with the shade Tryst from this palette. This is a cardboard component. I kind of like it. This is very sleek, but feels sturdy enough that if I were to like travel with it or put it in an overnight bag or something, that it would hold up. But it's like really, really light, which is really, really nice. I think for this style of eyeshadow product, I can't speak for Sigma, but I think Sigma would agree. This is definitely seems to be designed for kind of convenience. That's how it feels. It's like just really nice and thin. It doesn't have a mirror. I think if I did want to take this on the go, I would like for it to have a mirror. But another thing I do like, I wish we had more clear topped eyeshadow palettes. It makes it really easy to remember that like what's in there, especially if you had multiples of these. And I know that the name is like on the product. To me, it seems like it's just another way to be able to easily identify which one you're looking for. I'm gonna go into the shade Tryst. Also, as a content creator, being able to like just hold that up real quick. I'm just gonna lay that on, and this will give me an idea of how pigmented things are. Okay, so they're really pigmented. Heard, but it's blending out too. I could be nice and use one of Sigma's compacts. Like Samantha Ravindall, I guess whenever she would get brand deals, when she like was, you know, more heavily a content creator, like she would get a lot of feedback about how she would always use this MAC compact as like her mirror. She just really liked that mirror, and she would have, she would like force herself to use other compacts whenever she was doing her makeup. I think for the sake of just like trying some things out, I think I'm going to keep the eyeshadow shape very simple. Just going to do something nice and blend it out. Also, that brush was the E25 blending brush. Typically, the blending brushes that I use are more like this. So this is an old Wayne Goss brush, the one on the left. That's what I typically think of as a blending brush, but I feel like this, at least from what I can tell, because that's like a shade of eyeshadow that's pretty similar to my eye, my skin color. But I feel like from what I can see, it did an okay job blending it out, which is great, which is ultimately what we want. Next, I'm gonna go into the shade Bootleg. Whoa. Okay, that's a little more pigmented than that looks dark. Okay. I'm going in with a light hand here. Okay, that's how it's looking. I think it blended pretty well. At first, I got a little nervous. I felt like it was kind of going on a little bit patchy, but I was being a little bit tentative with how I was applying it because I wasn't ready for that shade to be that dark. So like, that's what it looks like on the brush. That's what it looks like in the pan. I just feel like that looks so much darker than it does in the pan. So far, it kind of reminds me of like what I remember ABH formulas being like back in the day. I've not tried any of their like modern eyeshadow palettes. It's giving me the same energy. And then I'm gonna use this brush. It's the Precision Firm Blender. It's the E42. So I feel like this would be really good. Like, I have hooded eyes. I don't feel like I need, and this isn't a brag, but I feel like I'm at a skill level where I don't need a tool specifically designed for people who have hooded eyelids, but it's great that those kinds of tools are being made. But I just don't feel like, I feel like I can work around that. But I love a small little blending brush. And then I'm gonna go into the shade Mocha, and I'm gonna just, do a pretty simple eye shape and just kind of like, I feel like that's a nice dark brown and it's blending out really, really well. So my expectations for Sigma, I'm not gonna lie to you, were pretty low. I actually wasn't expecting the performance of these to be as good as they've been so far. And I hope that doesn't come across shady. It's just like, I just didn't know. I always kind of like put Sigma kind of in a box of like, I don't know, like not subpar quality, but like, I guess sort of, I kind of put them on the same level as Morphe in my brain. And that's just a matter of like, I came up in that time and I don't know that Sigma was part of the problem, but I think Sigma was one of the brands that had affiliate marketing, but like, if you were there, you know that like Morphe really got blamed. And of course they did because they must have had like a very incredible affiliate marketing rate at the time. In my brain, I just thought of Sigma as like an affiliate marketing brand. So I just was like, it's private label. I don't know. And I had no reason to believe that Sigma was private labeled. I don't think they are. Maybe they were. I don't know. But I always kind of got the vibe that they were like on par with Morphe, which is like not eyeshadows that I really want to ever use. But like this makeup is really nice. And then I'm going to take this brush. It's the E15. It's the flat definer. I've never used a brush like this, but I'm just going to press Mocha along my lash line, kind of as like a powder liner. I think I would need more practice with this, but I think this could be a useful tool for me. I like the idea of this, but I feel like in application for me right now, I'm like a little bit confounded by it because I feel like I was doing a really good job keeping it really low to the lash line until I got to the center, and then kind of the opposite on this side. Like I was really able to keep it really close to the lash line. So I kind of gave myself, I don't know, a little more on the lid than I wanted to with that. But I think that's a skill thing. It's not like, I don't think it's the fault of the brush. Next, I'm gonna use some shimmers, and I'm gonna use this medium sweeper to apply them. I might apply them with my finger as well, E54. And I think the shade Maverick is really pretty. It's this one in the center. I think I'm gonna do that on like the outer portion of the lid, and then I think I'm gonna take Moonshine on the inner portion of my lid, kind of going into the inner corner. That's really pretty. That's really pretty. At least with the brush, it's kind of giving me topper vibes. Like, it feels pretty sheer. I feel like you can still see the eyeshadow underneath it, which is totally fine by me. I love a topper. This doesn't really look like a topper in the pan, but I am gonna apply it with my finger. Yeah, okay. I think that was just the brush because now I'm getting a lot more payoff. Look at that. You know what this reminds me of? I had a NYX palette back in the day that had this beautiful pink in it, just like this one. And I loved that shade in that palette, but I never used that palette because I like didn't really care for the other shades in it. But that's really beautiful. It has some like different colored sparkles in it. Let me do my patented dimming of the lights, zooming you all the way in. Look at that. Certainly not like indie eyeshadow sparkle. Also, whenever you do like the lighting and stuff, of course, the eyeshadow's gonna look a little more beautiful. That's really pretty. I like it. I think I'm just gonna use the same brush. I'm gonna go into Moonshine, which I'm actually like pretty excited about. I hope it's as pretty as I think it's gonna be on the inner corner. Honestly, I'm actually very, very impressed with these eyeshadows. They're not quite my usual preference when it comes to eyeshadow. They're a little more pigmented than I typically use. I'm very much in the realm of like something like the Hindash palettes, something like Viseart. So more luxury formulas, which tend to have less pigment but are very beautifully buildable, and like when you take your time with them you can just like do really flawless blends. But what I will say is like even with the amount of pigmentation that these eyeshadows have, I feel like they are very easily blended. So I don't always think that pigmented means good. Some people, that's like what that equates to for some people. For me, if it's too pigmented, I think that can be a bad thing. And like if they've become hard to blend. But I found like all of those eyeshadows really, really easy to work with. I found all of the tools that I was gifted to work really well with their formula, which is great. Because sometimes I feel like when a brand has brushes as well as formulas, it's not just a brush brand, they have also makeup. The brushes are really good, but not for the formulas from that brand. But I found that like there's been a lot of synergy in everything that I've been testing so far. I really quite like these eyeshadows. I'm gonna throw some mascara on and then we're gonna play with some lip product. So just for full transparency's sake, I did get a little bit of fallout with the shimmer shades. I say this all the time, at least when I'm like demoing something. I oftentimes use glitter primer when I'm using a shimmer shade, even if it's just a satin. Like I will oftentimes just opt for it. So I'm not sure if I would have had fallout if I used a glitter primer, but sometimes I like to see what the shadows can do on their own. I'm actually like really I'm like very into this eye look. I know it's so simple, so basic, but it's gorgeous. I keep looking down in this mirror. The way that the light's hitting my face in this reflection right now is like the shimmers are really beautiful. So far, pretty impressed. I have two lip products. They sent me the Renew Lip Oil and they sent me three. We already used the lip mask. And then they also sent me the lip cream in the shade Begonia. And the lip oil is in the shade Tint. I'll start with the oil because I imagine that will be a little bit easier to take off. And I'll be using a disposable doe foot. Ooh. Okay, first of all, love this applicator. As someone who has like large plump lips, and I know that people with thin lips probably hate these kinds of applicators, I love this kind of applicator. I'm always thankful for Fenty for like bringing this kind of applicator into the zeitgeist. If you're new to me, I started recently using disposable applicators for lip products when I'm testing them. So that way, if I don't like this formula or I don't like the color of it on my face, I can just give it to a friend and then my lips haven't, I haven't been double dipping in there. I don't know if this is scented as something, and the scent kind of reminds me of something, but I can't quite put my finger on it. It also kind of is like repulses me. It's not like a rancid smell. It's just kind of like, it's like triggering something. Something like it just kind of like has a weird little taste to it. This is absolutely, what is this supposed to be, a lip oil? Yeah, I would say that this is not an oil. This is absolutely a lip gloss. It's super thick. Like oils, in my opinion, tend to be a little more loose. A little like the formula's like a lot thinner and just kind of like melts onto your lip. That's not what's happening here. This is absolutely a lip gloss, but it is pretty. I mean, like there's not really much color to it, but I kind of like that, sometimes like a clear lip gloss. It's not stringy, which is good. And it does feel like it's gonna stay on my lips. Like it doesn't feel like it's going to move around. The formula, because of its thickness, I feel like it's going to allow it to stay in place. It's really, really shiny. It's really glossy. I kind of dig it. But I would say, I mean, I'm very limited in my knowledge of lip oils. The only other lip oil I've ever tried has been the ones from Merit. Those kind of felt like nothing to me. Like, I don't feel like they were doing anything. I had the deepest shade, I think it was called Falcon, and I felt like just because it was so pigmented, I don't think it really looked good on my lips. And then I also had one of the ones that had like the pH adjuster in them, and then that was fine. I like that one better than I like the deep one. But this is like not at all the same experience. Texturally, physically doesn't feel anything like that one. If you like that one, I would not say that you would like this one. But if you're looking for like a beautiful gloss, it's feeling that way. I have no idea if it's going to give me the white ring of death. That would come in time. I would wear this as a lip gloss. I wouldn't carry this around as like a nourishing lip oil or anything like that. So let's try the lip cream. I assume this is going to be a lot more pigmented. So I imagine this is supposed to be like either like a liquefied lipstick or a lip gloss, a more pigmented gloss. That's pigmented. I don't think it's gonna have a matte finish, but I think it's it's certainly a liquid lipstick. So for this kind of formula, I think something more precise for the, I know I just said that I loved the applicator for this. Still love a big juicy applicator, but I do think that when we're talking about something that's pigmented, it should have something smaller so it could be more precise. How pigmented this is, I would say that this is certainly something you need to look at yourself in the mirror to apply, where I feel like you could very like sloppily apply the lip oil and like you would get it where you needed to get it and you wouldn't need to see it. So something I really like about it, I actually really like this color. I feel like it's very yellow compared to like what it looks like in here. Like at least on my skin, I feel like I see a lot of yellow coming through. Kind of like more of a honey nude as opposed to being like a mauvey nude, which I feel like is what I was kind of like expecting from this. I like this color a lot. I think I would wear a lip liner with it in the future, just because of how light it is. It's not quite concealer lips, but it's not quite as like different from my skin tone, I think, as it would need to be as like a standalone lip either. I just think a little bit of lip liner would help it along. I don't really know how to feel about this kind of like crushed lipstick kind of vibe. I know that this formula kind of exists in a lot of brands, but like I've never tried one before. It's not sticky. I don't know if I like something that has this kind of like glossy finish to have this much pigment. My preference is something glossy. I like it a little bit more translucent than this, but it's still pretty. I still like it. Further testing would have to be like me wearing it for a long period of time and seeing what it looks like. Again, I don't know if it will give me the white ring of death. Unsure of it, but I preferred the lip oil. But what I will say is like, I think that the colors that they gave me all went together, which I appreciate, because sometimes I'll buy stuff for my own brand reviews, like where I will buy the stuff myself and then I don't buy things that go together. But I think Simca did a really good job kind of like putting together a color story from the eyes all the way to the lips for me, which I really, really, really appreciate. Let me just kind of quickly run through everything we used. So we have the lip mask, which I really like. More of a nighttime thing for me, but also is a good prep step. The bronzers, I do feel like these bronzers are pretty warm. I do feel like the light shade worked really well and looked really, really natural on my cheek. And I feel now that the bronzer has been on my face for a while, even the medium bronzer, I feel like it's looking a little more lived in. It's looking a little more natural, even in real life, but it's still more orange than I would like. So I'm going to keep playing around with the light one. I'll find a new home for the medium one for the time being. When it came to the blushes, I like this cream one color a lot better than I like this shade. So the powder blush applied really beautifully. It was really easy to use. I feel like it wasn't too pigmented. I feel like it went on just and blended out really, really nicely. This isn't a shade for me. If I was like looking at Sigma's display, I would pick probably a matte blush, or if they had like a beigey tan blush that was like had the shimmer formula, that would be probably what I would go for over this, especially for like testing purposes, because like it's gonna be, I'm not gonna be like super excited about using this color. But this shade, the shade Pashmina in the cream blush, this kind of like corally shade, really, really beautiful. I don't wear a lot of corals, but I feel like, again, to compliment the brand, like I feel like I really like how all of the makeup that they gave me wears together. Like I think it all looks really good. I think the biggest disappointment for me makeup wise was the highlighter. It feels more like an eyeshadow to me then it feels like a highlighter. I just think it's too pigmented for a highlighter. I think highlighters are really beautiful whenever like they don't have a lot of base pigment. It just kind of feels eyeshadowy to me. I want to try some other application methods, like try a fan brush, try my normal brush to see if I can get it to look better. But I feel like if I have to use specific brushes for it, then it's like a little bit too fussy, like sometimes. So like not a big fan of that highlighter. The eyeshadow palette though, not my favorite color story, like these warm browns, these warm red leaning browns. Like I like an orange, but like, these warm oranges, it very much evokes what I remember Modern Renaissance, but I think this is actually more exciting than Modern Renaissance was. Modern Renaissance had a lot of mattes in it. I think that the 9 pan for this kind of color story is really, really beautiful. Even this gold, so I didn't talk about this shade Soiree, but just like the center shade, it has sparkles in it that aren't gold, kind of like giving it that holographic, not exactly holographic feel, but like having holographic sparkle within the gold. I probably wouldn't use that shade like very often. Like I'm not big on gold eyeshadow. It's not for me, but these champagne shades are really good. I am interested. I didn't use this today, but the shade Biscotti looks more like a matte that has shimmer in it as opposed to being like as shimmery as the other shades. But like I said, I like the way this feels in my hands. I do definitely, overall in my makeup experience prefer something luxury. And I've talked many times about like something that's appeals to me about luxury makeup often is like I like a dense, heavy product, but like it feels right. Like I don't know how to describe it other than like when I hold it. For it being like Sigma branded, it just feels right. Like it feels intuitive. I don't know. It feels good. Based on this experience, if Sigma ever releases a color story that I would find very intriguing, I wouldn't hesitate to buy it. I quite like this eyeshadow. Shocker. And then the lip products kind of have confounded me. Like I don't think this is a lip oil. I think this is a lip gloss, but I liked it. And then the lip cream, I feel like it's just kind of sitting on my lips. I'm more concerned about this getting away from my lips than I was about the lip oil. The lip oil felt very sturdy on the lips. I'm like a little bit concerned, but it's still on my lips. Like I feel like it hasn't moved around a lot since I applied it. I think this color is, I need to try it with a lip liner, but I don't know. I don't know that I like this kind of thing. This is my first experience with this kind of like crushed liquid lip. Normally if I use a liquid lip, it's typically matte or like a soft matte. And then the brushes, great. I thought they were all great. The shapes weren't super innovative. So one thing I've, just to do a little quick comparison, one thing I'll say about BK Beauty brushes, like their brushes are like very interesting shapes. Shapes were kind of straightforward, but I'm happy to have this shape of a brush. But I liked the brushes. They all performed really well. Again, I found that like the eyeshadow brushes worked really, really well. The highlighter brush, I need to try with a different highlighter because I don't think I like this highlighter, I think that's part of the problem. But like, yeah, all to say is that I'm very impressed with everything I tried from Sigma, less the highlighter. Like I think all of this was really, really, really good. Now, I'm going to keep testing them, so stay tuned. If you're not subscribed to me already, I would love to have you subscribe. I like to keep makeup that I get in PR and like test it for a while. I like to see how much I reach for things. I like to try them again and again. So this was absolutely a first impression, and it shouldn't be taken as like a complete review. I got some vibes for some things, but I always check back in throughout, makeup testing. At the beginning of those videos, at the end of those videos, I will check in. If I'm getting rid of anything, I will do like my review at that time. So it's like you kind of, it's not a trap, but like if you watch all of my content, you will find what I like and where it goes. But maybe it would be better for me to do like mini review roundups. I don't know if that would be more your speed. Let me know, because my content kind of is like, if you kind of just watch it all, you'll find out more things. The foundation, I think that I don't like this when it's first applied. Now that's a little more lived in, I like it. I was kind of immediately writing this off, but I do think I want to play with this a little bit more. It's still dewy, but it feels like it's set. It's like, it's set. Like it's on my face. It's not transferring at all, which is great. So love that. Like I was really excited that Sigma reached out. Again, thank you Sigma for sending me all of this to try. That was very, very kind of you. Like that was a lot of makeup. I was nervous that I wasn't gonna like it. I was even nervous about the brushes too, but like, I mean, oh, shut me right up. Like truly, for the most part. Again, the highlighter was the only like real dud. And I do want to say just again, finish Cicely. That's pathetic. That's pathetic. Again, that's not, no shade to Sigma. Sigma's very reasonably priced. I'm okay with them using non-custom components. I don't think that's okay for Cicely. Okay, they're just too expensive. They should be making custom components. Is that everything I have to say? Okay, yeah. And if, like I said, if you're not subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you subscribe. So I do sometimes get PR to try things out, and I also sometimes buy things specifically to review. But the main focus of my channel is to love my makeup collection as it currently is. And I want to help myself and help you build the habit about being more discerning about what we're purchasing. So like a lot of my content, when we talk about consumerism, talk about what I'm excited about that's coming out in makeup, but then I also try to be reasonable and look at my makeup collection first before making a purchase. So that's what I try to promote here. So I would love to have you subscribe if you're into that. Make sure you like this video. I'm on patreon.com, and I also have channel memberships if you would like to support me that way. Patreon.com/hautemesstom is the handle over there. I do one additional video every month over there, and then my podcast with Khaki of Khaki Reviews Beauty. We do 4 episodes of our podcast every month. So that's where you can access that. Every level of patronage gets all the same things. So check that out if you're interested in. There's no pressure to join my Patreon. There's no pressure to be a member. It's just there if you want to do that. Liking, commenting, and sharing my content is a wonderful way to support me. It's just a different way to support me. You don't have to do it. No pressure. That wraps up the video. I've been talking for a really long time. This video I've been recording for a long time. I feel like I didn't talk much. I feel like I was like really getting into the to the makeup, which was fun. That's fun. I had fun. That's great. I love that. Okay, cool. Remember to follow your hope and you'll find me. I'll see you in a video very soon. Go forth. Tits out. Bye-bye.